Good Monday evening. This is Kaylee, and this is Out of the Forest. I hope your Mondays went well. I just got home from work, so I have no makeup on, but that's all cool. I don't have to be a glamour puss. So I was on one of my Facebook groups today, and one of the recurring questions that I saw was about diet, and a lot of people are talking about how they're overweight and they have all of these stress issues and they have anxiety and they're gaining weight and all this other kind of stuff, and they're just a hot mess. And I saw a lot of differing advice, like, get more exercise, oh, you're beautiful the way you are, etc., etc., etc. And the fact is that you do have to look at diet. It's not about dieting, which there is a difference. It's about what you are putting into your body. It's not about getting on a diet or dieting. Throw those concepts aside. It's about how we look at food, what we are taking into our bodies, and how those things that we put into our bodies can help make us feel better, especially with our cognitive issues. Let me tell you a little brief story about my diet. When I was a kid growing up, my mother was an only parent, and she was a doctor, and she did her best. I remember we used to have sit-down meals. We used to have meatloaf, and we used to have chili, and we used to have these meals that she would prepare, but it was the 1970s. It wasn't really anything fancy. And then we got a microwave and we started leaning on microwave meals. Not great either. But I never really I don't remember breakfasts a lot with like bacon and eggs or anything like that. I usually had cereal. And I remember probably about junior high, I started to do Super Sugar Crisp cereal with Mountain Dew. Yes, Mountain Dew. And white bread toast with margarine and jam. And that would be my breakfast every day. Needless to say, probably before lunch, mid-morning, I would just crash. I just would fall asleep in class. It was bad. So it wasn't a very good diet. But I drank a lot of Mountain Dew. I just drank a ton of Mountain Dew. Then I would come home from school. I would take out a can of SpaghettiOs and meatballs, open that sucker up, throw it on the stove. I don't think I microwaved it at the time. And put it on the stove, heat it up, eat that while I was watching Gilligan's Island, and drink another Mountain Dew. And then for dessert, I would often open a can of pears in syrup. Just open an entire can of pears. Eat the entire can of pears. And then to top that off, I would get a can of chocolate icing. I had seen a friend of our family's, and she was the skinny as a rail. And whatever she did, I used to do. So I thought, oh, she's eating chocolate icing out of a can. And I started to develop this habit. Of course, my mother didn't do anything about it. She said, you're not going to eat icing all the time. She just let me do it. I love my mom. I love her. I don't want to say that she was neglectful. But I'm like, what was she thinking? She was out the door by like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning before I went to school. So I had a babysitter. And the babysitter didn't give a crap. They weren't saying, here, let me make you breakfast. I guess they figured at 7th or 8th grade I should be able to make my own breakfast. I know a lot of people out there are like, why didn't you make your own breakfast? You're an adult. You should be mature. Exactly. The entire point. I know that my mother tried to teach me how to cook, but it's kind of like it didn't stick. There's a lot of stuff going on. I don't know. People think, oh, well, you should learn how to do that stuff. Well, yeah, I should have. But here we are. We're talking about ADHD. We're talking about all these problems, all of these external issues. My mother was a busy doctor. She'd write a list. she wasn't really paying that close of attention. She had her own issues. She had her own ADHD. She had her own depression. She, handed me off to a babysitter who really didn't really have a bunch of an investment or care about my diet, like whatever. And at the time, nobody had any consciousness about diet and mental issues. None. I mean, that wasn't a thing. I remember years later, I had an argument with my mother and saying, why did you let me eat all that sugar? I know that people are like, well, you should have known. I'm like, no, I was a kid. There should have been adults in the room saying, I'm not going to buy that for you. No one stopped me. No one stopped me. It just wasn't a thing. Like, people just didn't care. And so I had this horrendous diet. And I remember having this argument with her years later about sugar. I said, why'd you let me eat all this sugar? And she's like, sugar has nothing to do with ADHD. That has nothing to do with causing ADHD. Well, it may not have anything to cause about ADHD, but it sure as hell had to do with my energy levels, my brain fuel, which I was not getting good brain fuel because I was eating sugar, and caffeine and crap, and you're expecting me to function well in school. I remember falling asleep like in the middle of the day because I just, and then of course when I was in high school and junior high, I didn't have a lunch. I had to bring my own. No one was making me lunch. I know, again, people are saying, well, why didn't you make your own lunch? Why weren't you taught? Good question. I don't know. Again, my mother, she's busy. She's distracted by her own stuff. It's not like she was neglectful. It's just, that was her reality. I think she did the best she could, but she was very distracted. She had ADHD too, although she wasn't diagnosed until later as an adult. So she wasn't really aware of this stuff. But she had depression. She had anxiety. She was going on with stuff. I mean, she was a single mom trying to raise me, I had babysitters, but they didn't give a crap. I mean, a lot of people, there were no adults in the room. There wasn't anybody in my life that was saying, you really should do this. Seems like common sense, but this is the reality. And we want to sit there and we want to place a lot of judgment and blame on parents and this and who didn't do this and and I'm frustrated with it. I'm like, why didn't someone take that? I mean, I could sit there and say, well, I take responsibility. I should have been old enough and I should have known better. But I'm like, should I have known better? I don't know. But anyway, it was what it was. And I just had to do what I did. And so I never really formally learned how to cook. My mother tried to teach me. We had wonderful meals at the holidays. She cooked turkeys. She had healthy meals. But we had margarine in the house. We had the liquid squeeze margarine. We had a bunch of, I remember eating Cheese Whiz. We had Cheese Whiz. Remember the Cheese Whiz in the can? We had Velveeta. My dad loved Velveeta. Always had Velveeta. Ugh. Anyway, so my diet, needless to say, was crap. They didn't provide lunches in high school, so my nutrition during school was crap. The funny thing is, though, is that my senior year in high school was when The Young Ones came out on MTV. And I don't know if you're familiar with the show The Young Ones. If you don't, Google them. They're the most rockin'est British comedy thing, and I grew up with The Young Ones. Anyway, so I'm watching that, and they were always making lentils. It's like, oh, Neil, you make the lentils. And I said, I want to make lentils. What are lentils? Those sound so cool. So I bought a bag of lentils, didn't know what the fuck I was doing, cooked the lentils up one time, and poured all this crap. Worcestershire sauce, soy sauce, I don't know what I was doing because I didn't know how to cook. I had no idea. Didn't know anything about sweating onions or putting in tomato, nothing. Okay, I didn't have a book. We didn't have the internet. We only had, I had Better Homes and Gardens 1960s era cookbooks to use. They didn't have lentils, They had like lentil jelly loaf stuff, but they didn't have, how to prepare lentils. I didn't have a vegetarian cookbook either. But anyway, I made this concoction, and it was this and it tasted fine. Didn't look that great. But I'm thinking, I'm going to eat healthy because here's a bunch of college students lentils, they sound like they would be healthy. So I made them and I brought them to high school with me one time. And people were looking at me going, ew, what are you eating? And I'm like, I'm eating lentils. That was kind of like, this is when I was in high school. And, it's just funny because it's like, people just were like, gross, that's disgusting. How can you, eat that? And other than that, the only other time we had pop machines and junk food machines. So you could get a bag of chips and a pop and eat that for lunch, or bring your own lunch, which I didn't, apart from the lentils, I didn't really think about making myself a sandwich. No one was sitting there saying, oh, what do you need for lunch? I guess they figured you're an adult now, you should know how to do this. But of course I have ADD. I have these problems and I was not taught these things. I was not guided in how to do these things. So I had to figure it out on my own. And I remember we used to have bagel day. Yay, carb day. And the nuns would come out and they would sell, and we loved bagel day because they would have big bags of bagels, and you'd buy a bagel for $1 and a big old thing of cream cheese, and that would be my lunch. Needless to say, carbs, and then of course you drank a pop with it. That was my lunch. That was how I ate. I don't even remember what we had for dinner. I think we had like some lean cuisine microwave thing for dinner when I would get home. and then I got healthy and I started drinking Diet Dr. Pepper. I had never had a weight problem, but at one point when I was a sophomore, I had jaw surgery and I had my jaw wired shut. And so again, I had a nutritionist, but they're like, oh, here, blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't really like what you could do now. Like, we didn't have a Vitamix. We had a food processor, and they were saying, oh, yeah, just blend your hamburger in the food processor and suck that up. I'm like, ew. So I usually ate strained soup. And this is all summer. Ate strained soup, and I got a kick on eating cookies and cream milkshakes, and I did that, and I kind of ballooned up a little bit in weight. That was what I ate when I had my mouth wired shut. So anyway, that's kind of my childhood, and it was. And then of course you get into college, and then what do you eat in college? You eat subs and pizza. That was what my diet was throughout college. Wasn't until I transferred into my other school where I actually got back into a cafeteria situation, and there were vegans and there were vegetarians and there were people who were so much more hippie consciousness about food and what you're eating. And so they had a really nice salad bar and nutritious food. So I finally started eating a little bit healthier. But at that point I had also gotten on Prozac, which was causing me to run out to the store and get runs of ice cream, and I would eat an entire half gallon of mint chocolate chip ice cream, and I would eat that thing, and I gained a lot of weight, and I had to join Jenny Craig, and I lost a lot of weight, and then I was like down to like 108 pounds when I graduated, and I was riding my bike and everything. But yeah, it was kind of crazy, but that was probably the first foray that I was really kind of becoming more conscious of food. And then just little by little, I was training myself how to cook meals, and it's basically been, I would make really nice, big, nutritious salads. So it's really been kind of an evolution after I got out of college and really being focused on nutrition, and really, and of course you're getting more resources. There's more societal stuff. I would watch, oh, there's a menu, and then you're on the computer, and then you're getting more information on the computer about different diets and different ways of eating and all this other kind of stuff. And so, yeah, but in the 70s, man, you're not gonna really get much. It was just kind of like you're on your own. 70s and 80s, with food, it was awful. But anyway, that was my experience with diet, and I see a lot of people struggling with it, and I think that since I said I'm on keto now, and it's been a game changer, and I'm going to talk more about keto and why diet is so important. Again, not dieting, but diet, and how the whole high carb crap is bad. I got off of sugar. I am off of bread, wheat, sugar, carbs. I limit my carbs. Strict keto is down to 20 carbs a day. But you're primarily taking in healthy vegetables that are low carb and healthy fats. So I eat a lot of salmon, fish, salad, and I love these things. I've never been a real sweets person, so it's not been a real big shift for me. It's been pretty easy to eat those things because I like those foods, you know, and it's an acquired taste. And you have to make that people are like, oh, can I drink Diet Pop while I'm doing keto? I can't I'm like, look at why you can't let go of your Diet Pop. You know, think about why you can't let go of your triple latte sugar bomb thing from Starbucks. I mean, understand why you're attached to those items. That's something that you have to sit down and journal about. Why are you attached to them? Do you care more about that, or do you care more about feeling great? Because I trust if you change over to a keto diet and get rid of that stuff out of your diet, you will feel better. Trust me, you really, really will. And I'll talk more about that in another video. Please remember to subscribe and put the little bell on so you'll get more videos. And if you have any questions, please contact me in the comments. I've also set up an Instagram account that I'm going to start posting some stuff like meals. We're going to take pictures of our meals or take pictures of peaceful things. I don't know what else I'll put on there. But I do have an Instagram account now. I do also have a Facebook presence now. So that's slowly being built up. So please be patient. Again, subscribe. And if you have any comments, please contact me. Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful day. Hang in there. I did. And I'm here doing another video for you. All right. Take care. Bye.